Hey everyone, it is great to talk to you again today. This game marks the start of a 2-game road trip and a great test for the Boilermakers. First up, Northwestern and their dynamic senior guards, Chase Audage and Boo Buie, the only two guards scoring at least 15 points each per game in the Big Ten. So there's some questions before the game even gets started for the Boilermakers. Will Purdue's freshman guards struggle with Northwestern senior guards? They've started to look tired the last few games. Can Northwestern stop Ziti? Will the grab, pull, bang, and hack routine with a little bit of elbow be duplicated again towards the big man in the middle as it has the last several games? Referees have not stopped it. Now, I expected Northwestern to bring their A game, playing the number one team in the country, and you can imagine their fans would have been jacked up. So, here's not a good omen, though. Northwestern is 0 for 18 against number ones. But just who's that going to be bad for, right? Will Northwestern break the streak, or will Purdue push them out to 19? You can kind of see both ends of the spectrum on that one. Here are the net rankings for the two teams. Purdue is 4th in the country and Northwestern is 49th. As usual, expect a close game right down to the wire from these two pretty solid teams here. Of course, one being number one in the country. Now here's what my notes say about the game as I watched it, and I'll go right through it. Not play by play, but pretty close to what's going on. Both teams started off with nice passes and big dunks. Both also were 2 for 2 shooting early on. And at the first break, which was at 15:48, the score was 6-6. It's very apparent that Northwestern thinks they can run Braden Smith around and bang him with the big guys to get open shots for their guards. Plus, Boo Buie, as he brings the ball up, keeps putting his hands in the middle of Smitty's chest, pushing him away. I wonder if they're actually going to call this at any point for an offensive foul. They haven't in the past. It seems like they may not again today. Northwestern also is double and triple teaming Ziti when he catches the ball. We'll have to see if Purdue's sharpshooters can make Northwestern pay for this. That was after the first break. And here's what I said next. I guess the sharpshooter aspect I mentioned worked out pretty good as Mason Gillis comes off the bench and drains 2 threes, and Purdue is up 13-6. So things were starting to heat up a little bit. Northwestern has basically run the same play about 8 times so far, running Brandon Smith around a bunch of big guys trying to catch up and getting Boo Buie and their big man a chance to get some shots. Now, there have been a ton of moving picks already, and yet not one has been called. Then Boo Buie drives the lane and gets the 2 off the glass, and he starts yelling and complaining about getting fouled when it was apparent he wasn't even touched. The replay showed that. Now, the score is 13-8 Purdue. So the hook, hold, push, and yank Zach Edey around theory continues so far in this game already. When he comes out to set a pick, he stops, he even gets pushed in the back by another couple feet by the person behind him. No calls. He's been hooked pretty hard underneath the basket for rebounds already too. But Purdue is still up 18-12. Just past the halfway point of the first half is where that was. Now, Purdue has already made 5 3-pointers and is up 26-16. 3 of those threes coming from, yes, you know it, the G-Man. Okay, this is sickening now, though. Braden Smith runs around 2 picks, and then the third guy hip checks him to the floor with no call. It was an obvious moving pick and clearly a hip check, but nothing. Northwestern, of course, capitalizes on the no call, making a 3-pointer. Smitty is going to be bruised up after this game, and this is what I said early in the game. Now, there's 3 seconds after I wrote that down, of course. Braden has to go to the bench to get blood stopped. Smitty had it all over. It was on his hands. It looks like Coach Painter's had enough of this, though, the beating on Smitty. He's now switched Morton over to cover Boo Buie, and I think that may change things. I have to say, as long as the referees continue every single game to allow this pushing, shoving, banging, and beating to happen to Purdue, it's going to continue the rest of the season. And at the 6:30 mark, an offensive foul is called against, you guessed it, Zach Edey. Ziti. The man has been brutalized so far this game, and the foul call is on him. Again, just like last game, it was a foul, but where are the other ones being called? They're not. Yet Purdue is ahead 30-25. With 4 minutes left in the first half, Zach Edey is hacked going up for a basket, and he gets 2 free throws. Now, while making the 2 free throws, Andy Katz, the announcer, basically said that because Zach Edey, Ziti, is so big, referees don't know how to call fouls against him. Even though he's getting beaten up every single game. So now I guess if you're a big dude, we can't call fouls against you. Still, Purdue is up 32-25. The other announcers have already talked about some of the good breaks that Northwestern has been getting. That's part of the game, including a goaltending on a blocked shot by Zach Edey. That was clearly not a goaltending, as the replay showed. As the game progressed, both teams have rattled in and out their last 6 to 8 three-pointers, and this game could be different in both directions if any of those are dropped. Now, with 41 seconds left in the half, Purdue is up 35-28. So after a Northwestern miss, Edey grabs the rebound, is hacked about 4 times before the 5th swipe finally gets called for a foul. Edey hits both of his free throws to get into double figures again for the 42nd time in a row, which of course leads the nation. And he has a couple visible scratches on his arms. As halftime hits, the score is 37-30 Purdue. And both teams have played very well with few turnovers and crisp action. Now, there's great commentary at the half. The announcer pointed out that Northwestern has done almost everything right, holding Edey to only 3 field goal attempts, outshooting Purdue 42-41%, and actually out-rebounded Purdue in the first half. But Purdue is still up 37-30. It shows the versatility. Stats leaders of the half are this. Zach Edey has 10 points and 6 rebounds on those 3 shots. And Boo Buie, he has 13 points on 6 for 10 shooting with 2 rebounds. Those were the leaders at the half, and things seemed pretty calm at that point. Now, the second half starts off with a shot clock problem that leads to a violation for Purdue, and they lose the ball. Now, this is the second time this season a problem with the shot clock, which the players don't know about, of course. They're not paying attention to that. They look up and see the numbers. They just see if there's time up there has gone, and this has gone against Purdue. Second time I can remember. That would go as a turnover, and the announcers agreed that it penalized the team who had the ball, who didn't know the clock had switched. Now, the second half starts off basically like the first half, pushing and shoving. Nobody calls a foul, no nothing, just keep pushing into him until he throws it away or something. I'm sure Purdue fans are getting sick of this. Now, Zach Edey does have 10 free throws, but probably should have 20. They've been riding Fletcher Lawyer also, all over the place, pushing and grabbing him just like they have been to Smitty. Now, when he's trying to make cuts and come for the ball, he's being full body muscle defense. The referees need to get some control of this kind of play, but they're not. I can hear it now. Purdue went to Northwestern, and a hockey game broke out. Although, Edey does have a history in hockey. Maybe that'll help as the game goes on, is what I thought. Oh my, with 15:33 left in the game, Edey gets a pass, is getting mugged, but gets the dunk and foul. I see something I don't think I've seen on him before. He actually looked visibly upset. Unfortunately, he missed the free throw to make it, and there was no and one. Now, Northwestern calls a timeout at 13:35 left in the game, and Zach Edey now has 18 points as his teammates are getting him the ball deep into the paint, where Northwestern can do nothing but hack or let him score. Purdue is up 47-39 at this point. I was just about to write down that the referees were calling it a bit tighter in the second half. Then one of Northwestern's players literally puts an elbow and forearm into the chest of Fletcher Lawyer and throws him to the ground like a rag doll. It was crazy. But just like much of the season, the refs say, play on, boys. No foul to be seen here. With 9:39 left in the game, Purdue is up 49-43 when Edey gets an offensive rebound off of a missed free throw and is called for an offensive foul. Replay clearly showed that he didn't do anything but jump straight up and down and get the rebound. Purdue has now only scored 12 points in the second half, though, and that seems to be something to be worried about. Both teams have only hit 4 shots in the second half, actually, and with 7 minutes and 40 seconds left, that's all that's been happening. Very quiet, lots of problems. Purdue has missed about 9 or 10 three-pointers in a row, and most of which they were wide open on, so you can't miss those wide open ones. Now, I think the announcers have seen enough. They just complained about 2 fouls by Northwestern against Caleb First trying to score, and then another one on the offensive rebound from First and the miss, and where the Wildcats are hacking Edey. So nobody called the foul. With 3 minutes and 43 seconds left in the game, neither team can really throw it in the ocean at this point, and I'm thinking, who's going to win this thing? Purdue has gone to Zach Edey enough, though, to have a 55-47 lead. You just got to laugh. Northwestern is close it up to 1 point with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left in the game, and it's 57-56. There's a throw-in and Zach Edey down low, and 2 guys mug him and steal the ball with no call again. Northwestern takes advantage of the 50-second call for them by the referees and drains a 3 to take a 59-57 lead. Now, Northwestern is on a 12-2 scoring run, and the refs have helped them get the lead pretty much. At least I see it that way. Purdue now has 10 turnovers in the second half. That's Purdue's fault, of course. Now, Purdue turns the ball over on its last 2 possessions and loses the game 64-58. That's how the second half went. The last 4 minutes were crazy. This game goes down to show you that you are allowed to bully your way through anyone on the court and against the number 1 team in the country, and the refs will allow you to do it, to give the underdog basically a chance to win. And it worked. So now every team will continue to do this to the Boilermakers as they have the few games before this also. The Big Ten referees have shown they cannot call the game in any way, shape, or form close to what it should be called, especially against Edey. Now the Super Bowl's coming up in an hour or 2. Let's hope the referees aren't as bad as the ones this horribly officiated game have in it. All right, but let's look at it this way. While the fans and every commentator are upset by the referees, and rightly so, the Boilermakers did this to themselves with terrible play. If they make even 3 or 4 more good plays, they scratch out a W. But Purdue made so many mistakes of its own to lose this game. Let's just say Purdue did everything right defensively, but they did nearly everything wrong offensively, with only 2 guys in double figures. They had 16 turnovers, missing their last 13 three-pointers. 0 for 8 in the second half. Couple that with the refs, and it was a defeat waiting to happen. Now, Braden Smith, called it after the game in his interview. He said, Purdue beat Purdue today. Okay, yes, Northwestern still played great, and they had a handle in it. Okay, so despite poor play, Purdue still controlled this game for 36 minutes. But just like the Hoosier game, a 4 or 5 minute lull in offense or even defense can lose you a game. We've seen that twice now. That happened against Northwestern yesterday. Purdue left a whopping hole, and the Wildcats drove a bulldozer right through it. Northwestern deserved this win. They played hard. They played good. They used what was given to them. So here's a comment on Twitter from fans of both teams, basically. From Twitter, this was during the game, from the famous Gabby out there. Hey, Gabby. Our guys are legit getting thrown like rag dolls, and refs are swallowing their whistles. And this from Braggs in the Stands. I'm not sure where he's from, but I had him on my Twitter. Zach Edey is difficult to officiate. So let's just give the benefit of the doubt to whoever is guarding Zach Edey. He said, that's ridiculous. And I have to agree, it looked pretty rough out there, and it looked like a football or hockey game had broken out, even though the Super Bowl was a few hours away. And this came from the opposite side, from the Northwestern. Big NU football fan, he's talking about basketball. I'm not sure, though. Maybe your team should hit the weight room or something. They're very soft. Of course you'd say that after a win, but you know that Northwestern fan? He said that because he was embarrassed that his team was allowed to pummel another team without any consequences that they should have gotten. So he took a shot on the internet at Purdue. You know what's embarrassing? That was, of course. But it better fire up the Purdue team, the Boilermakers, that is. They now know the refs will not call the game properly. They need to adjust. That's what has to be done. But enough of that junk. They lost this on their own. And Northwestern had a hand in it. I heard commentators say that Fletcher Lawyer, looked tired in this game and may be having problems towards the end of the season. You know, I see it differently. He was literally mugged through the entire game and bombarded with hips, pulls, and shoves to throw him off of his game, and it worked. And they did the exact same thing to Braden Smith, Smitty. All right, here are some ugly and crazy stats for you. Purdue is now 23-3 overall and 12-3 in the Big Ten. Those are still great numbers. You'd be excited about it if the game had been at this point in the season for sure. The Boilermakers scored just 21 points in the second half. I think that's the worst all season, and had 13 second half turnovers in the brutally physical game. Northwestern only had 3 turnovers in the second half for 9 total. You see the big difference. That's the game. Zach Edey had his 15th game of 20 or more points with 24 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks and 2 assists, and he had 6 turnovers, though. Ouch. G-Man made 3-pointers for his 9 points, so 3 3-pointers. Purdue was 36.2% shooting from the floor. Are you crazy? And 22% from 3. Tank City. We'll complain about the awful referees, but the Boilermakers did enough terrible stuff to lose this one on their own. All right, they lost it. Northwestern deserved it. Next up at Maryland, Thursday at 6:30. I'm positive it will be another battle right down to the end of the game. That's it for now. See you next time.